So you've heard about craft distillers, but what about artisan distillers? Hi folks. So what I'm doing here is another episode of Last Sips. Now, if you're not familiar with what that is I take a bottle, it's at its end, it's time for it to go. So we'll go over it, we'll cover the whiskey, but a little bit, and we'll talk a lot more about the conversation. Today, it was a thought that I had. Now, before we go over that, this is Deerhammer, their American single malt whiskey. Yeah, American single malt's a thing now. This is a really good one I've had from Deerhammer in Buena Vista. Now, this is their original. This is batch 66, and it's at its end. I did a review on it when I first opened it, but now it's the end. It's time for it to go. Now, my thought was about how artisan distillers and craft distillers. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, craft distiller, if you're not familiar, that's it. All gone. Craft distiller, if you're not familiar, is basically a small distillery. There's no real definition for it other than the fact that it's a small business open with a pure goal of making this craft distilled spirits. Basically, somebody doing it on their own by hand. That's it. There's no official designation. It's not even a legal term when it comes to the spirits industry. But a artisan distiller is something that I thought of recently. It's a placeholder. Craft distilling started more recently until 2000 and basically 98, actually 1998, 2000. There really hasn't been any craft distillers. It was just the big companies, the big six or the big seven or whatever you want to call them. But ever since then, slowly but surely, small distilleries have been popping up, whether they be people who used to work at one of the bigger corporate distilleries, or whether it be somebody who decided they wanted to start making their own whiskey and they got their own still, or like Deerhammer, maybe they decided they want to make whiskey and had someone make a still for them. Whatever way they wanted to go. But now there are hundreds, thousands of distilleries in the US. And craft distilling basically just refers to any distillery that's not one of the big corporate owned distilleries. So I had this thought thinking about it like people who make things, who make anything. You have big corporations who make stuff. You have the small businesses who may make stuff on a smaller scale. But then you have artisans. Now, I'll go over that. But first, we'll talk about this. This is Deerhammer's American Single Malt. This is batch 66, like I think I mentioned. And it's their flagship whiskey, and it's 92 proof. American Single Malt as their flagship. I like that. They're out of Buena Vista. And this one is unique. It's a darker, more richer flavor than your typical lighter, sweeter American single malt. Get that very maltiness right off the bat. Rich nose to it, not like a coffee. Like toffee notes to it. Almost like almonds. It's very, very rich. Almost get like a black tea note to it. And I like it. It's unique. It's different. There it is. That richness, that maltiness, darker, coffee, chocolate. This is like a dark chocolate, almost milk chocolate to dark chocolate. Like, it's so creamy and viscous. I love it. It's good. I'm going to miss it. So what do I mean by artisan? Well, when you're doing a project like this, it's a labor of love. You have to have distilling as a labor of love because you don't get into being a distiller just for the money. Any money. It's hard business. Anybody's going to tell you, not just as a small business, but being a distiller, it's something you do because you're doing what you love. And they say if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That's crap. It's still work, but it makes it easier to do. What I mean by artisan, though, is Deerhammer is a little different. Not every craft distiller is out to be big. Out to some distilleries are. Some craft distilleries are getting very big. They're getting presence across the U.S. and they're getting big enough to where they're being a household name throughout the U.S. And that's great. Not every distillery wants to be that, though, because when you get to a certain point, you either grow or you get better. I think that you have to get better in order to grow, but some distilleries, they get to a point they're like, I like this. I like where I'm at. And I think Deerhammer is one of those. They have gotten to a point where I think he likes it. He likes where it is. He doesn't want to change where the distillery is. He's living his dream. And I'm referring to specifically Eckstein family, Lenny and his wife. I think they just like where they're at. They're not huge. They're all across Colorado. They've gotten into Missouri now. But I don't think he'll ever get to a point to be like Stranahan's or Laws and be across multiple states. But that doesn't mean that they're not doing a good job. I think in the future, there might be artisan distillers. I'm using that as a placeholder because I think of it like if you find someone who, you know what, you may not be able to get it everywhere, but if you go find him, you go around that corner, you go find his place, and you can find something really good. An artist, an artisan, somebody who's been pouring his life into it and perfecting his craft and getting better at every day in turn. Not necessarily widespread, not going to be all over the place, but you know what? If you go find that one artisan, that one guy in that one place who makes something really, really neat, really magical, and you just find it, you're like, that's artistry. I think there's going to be that. I think there are going to be smaller distillers who are happy with where they are successful, but are making beautiful things. So I think that there are going to be craft distillers who can be anything. They could be big businesses and they can go across the U.S., but I think some are going to be artisans perfecting their craft until they find something and they make something so good that maybe not everybody knows it, but they find that one place. You've got to go looking. You got to know the right people, and you go find them. You go find them in their little nook, in their little niche, in their little corner of the world, and you find exactly that artistry in glass. I think that's what Deerhammer is. I love Buena Vista. Been there many times. It's a great little town. It's not going to be huge. It's never going to be Aspen, thank God. It's never going to be Breckenridge. It's Buena Vista. It's BV. It's small. It's a little corner of the world, and it's beautiful. And this is beautiful. Deerhammer, if you have a chance, pick it up. Now, they have a lot of different finished ones, a lot more lighter and sweeter. They have a bourbon that's good. They even have a hickory smoked whiskey. I haven't had that one yet. But really, I think they're artisans. I think they're artists. And I think that Lenny, every time I talk to him, when I talk to him about batch 66, he says, man, I think it's the best one I've made yet. And every time I hear him talk about a new batch, he talks about it like it's the best he's had yet. So I like that. I like that, and that's just an idea. Tell me what you think. Do you think there's going to be small little artisan places, small little distilleries, like, oh, you got to find that one place, that one guy. You got to know a guy, and you can get in there. That's just a thought. Thanks for talking with me. Thanks for sipping with me. I'm going to finish this Deerhammer, and I hope you guys have a great night. Thanks for the conversation. I'll see you later. It is good. Cheers.